Okay, so now we got over here to page Kuftes. Kuftes. And the subject here is the Zion Tikkunim of the Gegolta. Sistra go Sistra, there's a secret inside of secrets. Rachel lo Isya, the unknowable head, Nikra Nister Besoch Nister. It's called something hidden within the hiddenness. Visha Yarsh Sharesh lo Isya, Nikra Atik Yomim, which is now we're using the word Atik Yomim. Nista Besoch Erich Anpin is hidden inside of Erich Anpin. Erich Anpin, Nista Besoch B'Shar Partsufi Hatzilus, and therefore Erich Anpin is inside of all the rest of the Partsufi Hatzilus. Ki hine Sheva Sfiras Atachtona Sharesh lo Isya, because the lower seven, which I'm thinking that in our previous learning is that the seven spheros of Atik are in a straight line. That's why I think so. Or maybe it's only true of Erich Anpin. I'm not sure which is which. So at any rate, he says that Rosh, are clothed inside of the Rosh of Erich Anpin. 1 second. Let me see if we get something to help this page slightly. Okay. Whoa. Okay, forget it. Okay, so the B'tzarek Derek Anpin besod Shevet Tikuni Gugolta Sheyizboyer Behemshech. Now we're going to start talking about this. Bereshul Isya the Rabbechu Nista Besochu. It's hidden inside of Erich Anpin. V'chein Beguf Erich Anpin who Nistar. So also the body of Erich Anpin itself. The Fishuchum is Slavish Besoch Shar Partsufi Yitzilus, because it's clothed within all of the other Partsufim but Yitzilus. Okay, he says nister besoch nister. Hiddenness inside of a hiddenness. Istakein v'hin istakein, so it's put together in a minimization formula. It's if he of a Rosh Erich Anpin, nisakein Rosh Erich Anpin, b'shevet tikuni hanekraim, shevet tikuni gugolta. So he says that the ratio, the lo isya, let me see his words. He says the lo isya, yeah, that is what is misakein, the Rosh of Erich Anpin, with the seven particular tikkunim, which are places of minimization of the light, and the Nikroim Shevet Tikkunim Gugolta, which are called the seven tikkunim of the skull. V'hem histaros, they're a hidden element. V'levushim hamastirim umamatim esa or ha'oyon. So this is basically what I had said. Is it causes the levushin, the hiddenness is v'yizdamen v'al yadam nizdamen ha'or ha'elyon l'hoyer l'tachtonim, and through this gogolta, that is the preparation of the light to shine downwards. V'lachios zer anpin, and bring life force to zer anpin. Shlo yamos kederich shemezach amalachim amalkim kadmoim, that zer anpin should not die in the same way that the other malachim died. But if there's not a way to hide the hiding process of these levushim of the seven tikuni gilgalta hololo, lo hoye after l'or ha'olyon the yos lo devekos v'kesher im taktonim. So it has to go through a tzimtzum process through these gugolta, through these tikkunim of the gugolta. So he says there would be no light in the lower world of the chem gamnek crime hastaros chalavucha b'shem tikkun, and then as a result of that, they're called a tikkun. What's tikkun mean? The fi sha'al yadam na'asa tikkun l'or ha'elyon. It is the fixing of the upper light. Ba'ofen sheyuchlu atachtonim l'chasiga v'l'chanem ha'ma'ora, so that the lower world should get the benefit of that light, which is just too great. So this is how the lower worlds can receive the light of the Ein Sof. How or hagodol shel reish the lo isyada, or he specifically from that tremendous light that is coming from the unknowable head of Yisyada b'nikra Atik Yomim, which is also called by the name of Atik Yomim. Shenislavish b'soch shiva tikuni gegolta, that is clothed inside of the seven different openings, or actually they're more like closures of the face. Asher bechem av mislavish or ainsa, because inside of them comes also the light inside of Atik Yomim. I guess the Reisha Lo Isyada also have the light of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu inside of it as well. By Inyan, who said the Inyan is like this. Shal Yedei Tikunim Elu Mislavish Misalim Haor Ein Sof Derek Kama Levushim. So this allows many different kinds of curtains and clothings to be able to cover over the light of the Ein Sof Levushim V'Chastaros in different kinds of hidden ways. B'yotza L'Hoyer Rak Derek Saros V'Nikvei Harosh, so that it only can go through he mentions two things. Either this light can channel through hair, or it could go through the openings in the head, shehem ma'avarim, which are like very narrow bridges or passageways. Vayidei kol zeh, and through these levushim and this narrow passageways, nimsa shahor ha'elyon mismayit. So we see this causes the limitation of the light. And now there's ability or the power in the lower worlds, the Kabbalist or Ha'elyon, to be able to receive it because it's been limited. Now we're going to get into the nitty gritty here. Rosh Erich Anpin. So now we want to know these tikkunim, which are actually the part that builds the Rosh of Erich Anpin, building in the sense that it works as his matus. Mislavish or ha'elyon, because through them the light of the upper light has to be clothed. Now, so that's the process of the flow. So the first one is the number one, Aleph, is Bechad. In the first count is going to be the Gugalt. Hatikun the Rishon hu shahor ha'elyon nisakav and is damin lahoyer b'gugolos achas. So the first idea is that it's ready and prepared to shine into the skull. Shall Rosh Erich Anpin, of the head of Erich Anpin, shuhu ha'kaser shall Erich Anpin, which is of course his kaser. Kikuka ayin koteris, it's like a crown, achas, or a headline, achas hamakif al kol harosh, which surrounds the whole world, the whole head, excuse me. He says what this, the keser is he says, hu ka'ayin koteris, achas, hamakif al kol harosh, it surrounds the entire head. So inside of this skull, so I imagine he's just talking about something we just see the outside of the skull. So inside of the skull, though, his mislavish sefirot chesed, the sphere of es chesed ha'elyon shel reish lo isyada. In other words, the beginning of the zayin tachtonos, that's what I understand it, of the reish lo isyada, hanikra Atik Yomim, which is called Atik Yomim once again. Chesed mispashet umeirbo, and then this chesed shines into the gugolta. Vuhatikun arishon hanikra gugolas. This is gugolta, so this is the first tikkun, which is called skull. Shabo nechlalim, because inside of that nechlalim kar sharcha tikun sheyuvor v'chemshek. We're going to see that everything else is inside of that. Kagon tla de tala. Was it tala? It's tala de bulcha. The bolcha and mitzcha. These words tala, the bedolcha, and then you have mitzcha, etc. We're going to be talking about all of them. Asher kulam nekroim al shemos shevet tikun gulgalta. So all of these different elements that we're going to be going through, and this is the first one, is the gulgalas. They're all part of the head. Shevet tikun gulgalta starts with the skull itself. The Inyan is like this. Shekal shevet tikun nimshachim mebechidis gulgalta. So that the gulgalta is really the beginning of the flow of all of these different these different attributes. So what is a skull? It's the image of something that surrounds. Shesoviv as called harosh v'alpanim. So it surrounds all the head and it surrounds all of the face. So that all of the tikkunim that are found there are in the general idea of the tikkunim of the skull. Meir hachesed shall reisha lo isyada. So since everything is inside of the skull or related to it in some way, comes out from it, so therefore the chesed that is in the reisha lo isyada winds up going through b'kol shevet tikkunim gugolta into all of the 7 tikkunim of the gugolta. Why? The fisha hachesed kolubo kol sheva oras pasod yom dekulhu. So here's this phrase again, yom dekulhu, which we see over there by sefira, we talk about that, but chesed has all the other sefiros within it. V'lechein av shehislavish ikar hachesed, shehislavshus, the actual place where it is clothed, the ikar hachesed hu b'makom b'gugolta. It's really only in the place of the skull itself, like he explained, which is some kind of a surrounding light. Kamosha yizboyer al kol zeh, in any case. Mispashet b'benu ha'aracha b'lakol l'shevet tikuni gugolta, but the light, that is the radiance from this light, keeps spreading into all of the other 6. Ki kol ha'shevet tikuni, because all 7 tikuni nimshachim b'bechilas gugolta ka'omor, all of them come out of the gugolta, which is the concept of, once again, of this idea of Yom Shakulo, Kulhu. No, wait, one second. Okay, Yom Shakulo, where'd it go? Yom the Kulhu. Okay, now the next one, number bet, is called Malya Tala the Bedolcho, Crystal Dew. Hatika Nasheni, who he Yosgo Golas Arosh Malaya Batal, so that the actual skull is full of dew. So what's pshat and dew? Mara V'Gavan Natal Hazecha B'Hu Ka'ayin HaMarech HaGavan Shal Evan HaBadolach. So it really looks like a crystal stone. That's really the color. Shehistaklus Harishona Nira Shahamara V'Hagavan Shadocha B'Chulava. Because if you look at it in the first case, right, the first look you have it looks like it's white. But now you put it up in front of your eye and you really look at it, hated. You could see all of the colors. The govern Adam, even the color red. So now you're inside of the head, and you see already there's all of the colors are there. So now you have this dew, and as you look at the dew, let's say if you were able to look at it, it would have the appearance of crystal. So what's it trying to say? He says, "Ki muach hachachma, the muach of chachma, shenikra muchastima, which is called the muchastima. So the chachma of Erich Anpin is called the muchastima. Shall Erich Anpin, who besod shlosh osios Yaakov. So let's take these 3 letters, Yud, K, Vav. So he said once again, the subject is the muach of chachma is also called Yaakov, which, if you put it in a milui form, a milui of alofim, it comes out the gematria of Tal, which is 39. Do. Ki l'kol nikra chabuach b'shem Tal, because this moach, which is called what? Tal de Bedolcha, is also called l'chein nikra muach zecha b'shem Tal. It's called Tal. And then the cavity of the skull itself shall Erich Anpin, who male hamoach. So we say that it's full of this moach, which is really Yud Vav Dalet Ke Aleph Vav Aleph Vav. That's how you could spell it. Comes out to be 39. Hamoach hanikratao. So look at the moach itself. Who besod Gavin Lovan? It's a secret of whiteness. Which of course is Rachamim Gebur. You can't see dinim at all. Badakos Gado, only with a very thin, smallest possible representation. So therefore, we see that all of the rest of the colors have to have a root, and the root is in the Mochstima. For the Govern Adam, even the one the color that refers to dinim gemurim. He said, Romas the dinim of the look, which tells there's going to be punishment in there. So therefore, this tal is going to flow over into the head of Zer Anpin. And once it reaches Zer Anpin, then you actually see the color red, Romas the dinim, which tells you about dinim. Ki yesh l'malo shorish l'gavan Edom, because up above, this is what he wants to say in this place called the Tala de Bedolcha, this Tal. There's a place there where you have the Gadam Evan Bedakos, but just in the smallest representation, Gadol, very small. V'nimsa shegavan ha'tal ha'elyon, so therefore the color of the upper Tal that we're talking about, which is inside of the Gugolta, right? The Gugolta is full of this Tal. Hu ka'ayin even the bedolach, so it looks really like the crystal stone. Shenira b'socho kol ha'gavon, and that if you look at it carefully, you'll see all of the colors for the kach nikra tal the bedolcha. So that's why it's called by this name. The tal, which we said before, is yud kei vav in a milui. The bedolcha, that tal, is really coming from crystal. It's a crystal with all the colors, but in small amounts. So this is also a question. The root of the red color, hanishrash b'muchas, which is now rooted in the muchas dimah, b'dakos godel, in a very fine way. Who mekoach is lavshos sefirot gevura. It's because of the fact that the sefirot of gevura is clothed shall reisha the lo isyada, that is the gevura of the reisha lo isyada, which is the second sefira of that reisha. The lo isyada besocha muchas dimah. So it represents that fact is that you have the gevura of the reisha lo yitzcha, isyada, is located in the muchas dimah of Erich Anpin, and that's what gives it its red color. So he said, Kruma de Revira is number 3. Now we have a crust. A crust, I don't know, it for the air. Now, either for the air or of air. Hatika nashlishi hu hayos krum mabdil bein muach ha'elyon shebetocha golgolta golus. There's this little something here that catch my eyes, is that it's inside. He says that it's inside. So I'll read it again. The third tikkun is a crust that separates between the moach elyon. There's a moach inside of the golgolas hanikra avira, which is called avira. So inside of the golgolas is this avira. So inside of the moach of the golgolas is this avira. The bein hamochas dimah ha'omer betachas avira, between the mochas dimah, which would be the number 2 location, which is underneath the avira, ha'omer tachas avira, is dakech. It becomes refined. Ad v'hakrum ha'zechad is dakech. It becomes refined or very thinned out. Kedei sheyuchul la'aver or ha'avira l'hayer b'mochas dimah. So here we have the light of the avira. I didn't quite catch exactly. It's called the kruma de avira. So there is some kind of air. It's not really explained to me exactly. I don't think here. He says there's some kind of kadesha yuchul la'avor bo call avira l'hoyer b'mochas dimah. So also that all of this avira, which is related, I guess, to the moach that's inside of the golgolas, he says it has to have something that holds it back. So he said, "Babo or havira l'hoyer b'mochas dimah," it has to shine through that. There, va'af al gavshin is dakik krum, and we said that the krum is very fine. So what it means is that it's in the transparent direction. In kol zecha be'ein hakrum patuch ba'ofen sheyuchul la'avra babo or havira legamri. But even so, it acts as some sort of a barrier because it does not allow the light that's inside of that is the avira itself, to pass just through freely. V'sausim, but it's closed up, rather. Ela hakrum ku sausim kedei l'mayet as or hagodol shel avira. So once again, this avira, which I think that he was saying is that inside of this part of a moach that's inside has a crust over it that keeps all of that light from the golgolas to flowing down. It limits it. Because if it was open, then the light of the avira would be too small, too strong, and the muchas dimah couldn't handle it. B'shum or harav shal avira, because there's so much light in that avira. So what's it all about? Ki b'toch anikve v'hadre hagolgolas, because in the midst of the chambers, the openings that we had mentioned before in the different chambers of the golgolas, yesh muach zak v'rak ma'od. Now he actually is helping me out here. There is a muach which is extremely fine. What's the right word? Transparent. V'dak, and thin. Ma'od. In other words, it's almost like it's not there. Shuva b'chinas ave ruchni, which is a concept which would be nice to hear this a little bit more about what it means, but there is an ave ruchni there, zak, which is extremely fine as well. She'enim nitpas, once again, it's so transparent as if it's not there. So he says, "Avir ruchni she'enu nitpas." It's not something that has enough substance to be able to reach. And inside of this avira is another light. This is the light of das of the Reisha de Lo Isya, the das of the Reisha de Lo Isya. Now, let's just see this. Seems like it's a little bit out of order, because first he said it was the chesed, as we know, is with the skull, and then we understand there's an avira there. So he says, so then he says, but what passes through is going to come ultimately into the Gugolos, into the Mursdima of Erich Anpin, which is where the Gevura is located. So now we had the skull and we had the Gevura, and now we're coming over here and introducing Das, and normally it's the other way around. So here he said, lavish or hagodo shall Das, the tremendous amount of light in this avira, which comes from Das, shall reisha de lo isyada. So there we see this coming into the first two, is now Das is somehow introduced. So this tremendous light, neshama, is like a panemius, it's like a neshama, which neshama usually means it's part of the middle line of coming in, shall call the sheva hatachtonim shall reach the isyada. So it really becomes this witching his words again. Which he said is inside of the avira. Hu b'bechinas neshama, but it's also called das. Shall call sheva tachtonim shall reish lo isyada, which means that it flows through all of the seven tachtonim. In other words, the chesed, which is in the gugolta, and the gevura, which is in the mochstima. He says that this light, this moch, the moch of das, is inside of them. V'umislavshim be'Erich Anpin, and it comes and winds up being clothed in Erich Anpin. So therefore, the real root of the light that's coming from the Resha, the Hakios says Erich Anpin, to bring life into Erich Anpin, to who bezer das, is from this das, and now it's getting another definition. The das is a mislavish ba'avirish b'gogolta. It's inside of the avira, which he said is a moach, which is inside of the gogolas. The gogolas of Erich Anpin. So the whole thing now is inside of this. We have these three parts. But let's understand, the light of nullification, which is the light of this avira, is tremendously powerful. So therefore, this is the point that he ultimately has to bring us to, is that the akruma, the avira, is placed in such a way so that it becomes a filter between the avira. So it's between the avira and also this mochstima, which is down below. So the light, or whatever you might say about the light, wants to flow to the mochstima, but it has to go through this kruma devira. But for this reason, also we see the clothing of the Tiferes of the Reisha Lo Yisyada. Now, let me just try and understand it. He says that you have a das of the Reisha Lo Yisyada, which is inside of this moach of avira. And he says of the Lakacha Gam Misleveshes at Tiferes. Now he brings in Tiferes, which is also on the middle line. Shal Reisha Lo Isyada Bezerah Krum. It's also in the Krum itself. Kechat Tiferes. So now you have what? Let me just see if I can add it up. You have the Kruma, which is a Mavdil, and then he says that, and inside of the air that you're trying to, he calls it the Avira, he calls it that you are trying to limit. You have this das. Then once after that, we have to find Tiferes v'lakacha gam mislaveshes at Tiferes shal reisha lo isyada. So now going down the middle line, the reisha in between the chesed, which is in the gugolos, and the mochstima, which is means gevura. In between them, now you're going to have a Tiferes. Tiferes who so the vikia hamavda bein maim the maim. So he's saying now. Let me just make sure I understand it. I'm sorry. All right, we're done. So I'll just finish up this idea, trying to keep track of it. Shahu hamasach hamavda ben avira. Let me go back to this line. He says, Amnam b'hiyosha or shal ha'avira b'chu godol ma'od. So since the light of the avira is tremendously powerful, v'lakach husam ha'kruma de'avira shuhu masak. So therefore there is going to be this krum. The krum becomes a mavdil. Bein ha'avira, between the avira, which has this tremendous light within inside of it, and also has this das inside of it, the Omer Lamala Bain Muchas Dima, and the Muchas Dima, which is going down before it, acts as a barrier. Ha Omer Lamata, Malakach Gamis Laveshas, a Tiferes Shal Reisha. So now we see the clothing of the Tiferes of the head, the Lo Isya, the unknowable head, Bezerah B'Chakrum. It's also in this krum, in this crust or this barrier. Kihat who beso the Rikiya, because it's a concept of a division. He says the word Rikiya, the concept of Rikiya, means that it's a curtain between one level and the next. Hamnav bein mayim, the mayim which separates water from raw water, and that's the shear here today.